This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. And we have an interesting show, to say the least, for you today on the Thursday edition of the GSMC Sports Podcast, here with your host, Josh Strickland. I need to say that more times because I feel like people don't get in their brain. I don't know. So this is going to be an interesting show. All right. So because we got breaking news right out the gate, and I'll discuss that in a little bit. The weather, it's 75 degrees right now. I mean, I know y'all probably don't care about my weather updates, my South Carolina weather updates, but it is crazy down here, guys. I mean, it's freaking 75 degrees. I wore, like, I mean, I thought it was going to be, like, cold and rainy, because that's kind of what it was yesterday, and then I walked outside this afternoon in a hoodie and jeans, and I was like, oh, God. 75 degrees. So hot. I'm sweating. So that was unfortunate for me. But I had an original lineup here. We were going to talk about, we're going to talk about NFL free agency. We're going to talk about a lot of football, actually, today. We're going to talk about NFL free agency. We're going to talk about Tua Tagovailoa being cleared. Then we're going to talk about Tom Brady and his new business venture. And we're going to talk about Monday Night Football and the Monday Night Football, the show. And then we were going to have Bracket Madness at 6, but now I'm bumping everything down because there's breaking news, for me at least. It's probably not breaking news for you. It's kind of old news for you as you're listening to this, but I'm recording this Wednesday. And breaking news for me is that the NCAA tournament will now have no fans, which I'll get into that a little bit more in a little bit. But because of that news, I'm pushing the Bracket Madness out. Sorry, everyone. I know that is your favorite. But we're bumping that out, and we're going to talk about the MVP race between Giannis and Lebron, or the supposed MVP race that the media wants you to think that there is. So we're going to get straight into it. So the NCAA, they have decided to close the NCAA basketball tournament to the public, which is very interesting, especially since there are conference tournaments going on right now, and these conference tournaments are having fans in attendance. The ACC tournament, for example, in Greensboro currently, I mean, they've already played four or five games in that tournament, and they have all had people there. Not a lot of people, but they've had people there. And so this is crazy. Right? I mean, we talked about it on Tuesday. We talked about the effects of the coronavirus and what some sports leagues are thinking about doing to combat the coronavirus and make sure that not only their players are healthy, but the fans and I guess the media, because they kicked the media out like immediately. Like they're like, what's the first thing we can kick out? Oh, the media. We're kicking the media out, which I've seen a lot of people on different sides of that fence. I've seen a lot of people complaining about it, which is mostly media people. Then I see a lot of people that say the media people are being a bunch of babies about it, which are people that mostly don't work in media. So as a person that's sort of working in media, but not really, like I don't go to games or anything like that. I don't interview people or anything like that. But as a person who kind of works in that sphere, on the outer ridge of that sphere, it is kind of unfair that for some reason thousands, tens of thousands of fans could still go to the game, but these media members can't. Like these 10 to 15, or I guess max 30, depending on the caliber of the game, can't go to these games. Or they're not allowed any like close proximity to the players or anything like that, which is their job. So you're literally, the fans, they don't have to be there. The fans don't get paid to be there. The fans pay money, which is probably why they get to stay there. But these media guys, they get paid to be there, and you're literally stopping them from doing their jobs. So there you have that. But back to the NCAA tournament, they announced that the NCAA tournament is completely going to be shut out. Although I just saw an update on Twitter that says sources, the NCAA is believed to be having discussions regarding shifting to smaller venues for both the Final Four and the Elite Eight. The Final Four currently is being played in Atlanta, in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which is a gigantic stadium, and having that gigantic stadium, we talked about this on Tuesday, having that gigantic stadium, having this big-time games, and it's just completely empty, which would be insane. So let me read the official, if I can find it, I had it pulled up and then I clicked away from it. The official statement here: the NCAA continues to assess the impact of the COVID-19, which stands for Coronavirus Disease 2019, in consultation with public health officials and our COVID-19 advisory panel. Based on their advice and my discussions with the NCAA Board of Governors, I have made the decision to conduct our upcoming championship events, including Division I men's and women's basketball tournaments, with only essential staff and limited family attendance. While I understand how disappointing this is for all fans of our sports, my decision is based on the current understanding of how COVID-19 is progressing in the United States. This decision is in the best interest of public health, including that of coaches, administrators, fans, and most importantly, our student athletes. We recognize the opportunity to compete in an NCAA national championship is an experience of a lifetime for the students and their families. Today, we will move forward and conduct championships consistent with the current information and will continue to monitor and make adjustments as needed. So that's the official statement from the NCAA, and I've seen multiple things going on here. I've seen reports that the NCAA are even thinking about not televising the tail end of the NCAA tournament, which is just a crazy thing for me to think of, because the NCAA tournament has been broadcasted ever since I've been alive. I've never listened. Well, I have listened to sporting events on radio, but I've never listened to sporting events unless it was like spring training or something like that on the radio, because it wasn't on TV. Like, that doesn't happen. Or it doesn't happen anymore. I mean, that's just not something. So I'm wondering how that would work. Would it just be the SIDs just play-by-play tweeting what's happening, or like is just the very minimal media personnel there to just live broadcast it on Periscope or something, or on Twitter or Facebook Live or something like that? I don't know. That is a crazy thing to think of. That obviously I don't think is going to happen, because they not only are they going to lose all the revenue from ticket sales and stuff like that, but they're also going to lose some TV money, because I'm assuming these TV guys will want to have, access and broadcast it. And also, if we're all going to be quarantined, I'd rather us have the NCAA tournament to watch, at least for a couple weeks. So that would be nice. But it is crazy. It is crazy right now that we're going to have the biggest tournament. And it's supposed to be a wild tournament, too, where Dayton can be a number 1 seed. San Diego State has a chance to upset big-time players and make it far into the tournament. Like, it's supposed to be a crazy tournament this year, which, I mean, it's turning out to be a crazy tournament now that we're thinking about it. But it is going to be empty. There's going to be very little fans. There's going to be family. There's going to be essential staff people there, which, of course, you kind of need that. But it's going to be empty. And it's not like bowl games. It's not like bowl games where most bowl games are already pretty empty. This is like big-time games that people go to. Like the Dayton region, I think, would be in Ohio. That's the Ohio region. Like, they would be playing games in Ohio. A lot of people would be there for that. But now it's not. So, and then, I mean, college universities all over the country are now switching to online courses or an extended spring break for students. So, I mean, that's been going on all over the place, even in places where the coronavirus hasn't really spread as much, but they're doing a lot of precautionary stuff to kind of get it out of the way. And I understand if you're tired of hearing about the coronavirus, you understand that it is, if you think it's a blown up pandemic by the media. But the bottom line is, I'd rather us be extremely cautious about something that's not a big deal than us not caring about something that could become a big deal. I'd rather us be extremely cautious when it might be a big deal than us not caring at all, and it ends up being a huge deal, because a lot of people could get affected by that. And I understand. I made the argument not even a week ago, actually, last Thursday, that this is not that big of a deal. I feel like it's just being overblown, and I still do feel like that. Honestly, I do. But there are people that are smarter than me, make more money than me, and are much closer to the situation than I am, and they are making these decisions. So I'm not going into full panic mode. I don't want anyone to go in full panic mode. I don't want to fear monger or anything like that. But it is concerning that this is happening, and I'd rather be on the cautious side than be on the non-cautious side and get hit extremely hard by this. So that is your update. That is the breaking news. NCAA tournament will have no fans. And they're thinking about moving Final Four and Elite Eight to smaller venues so they can have fans, just not as much, which would be really interesting on what venues they would choose, actually. But when we return from break, we'll talk about NFL free agency. We'll talk about matching teams with the top 100 players that are available in free agency. So we will be right back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
So NFL free agency is, of course, still happening. Technically, it doesn't start. It actually hasn't started yet. It starts in a week. Next Wednesday will be the day of reckoning for a lot of people at 4:00 p.m. So literally, the next Thursday episode you listen to, it will be me reacting to some of the early signings, some signings that happened because they totally didn't have they totally didn't have any contact with any team before 4:00 next Wednesday, but they signed at 4:01 or something like that. I love when that happens, when right at 4 you hear that so and so signed with team they weren't originally with, and everybody's just whoa, that happened so fast. And I'm just in there they probably were talking for the past 3 months, but it's fine. So I found this article, of course, on The Athletic. The Athletic's fantastic, by Sheil Kapadia, is NFL free agency predictions, matching teams with the top 100 players. I probably won't go through all 100 players, but I'll definitely go through at least the top ones, give you my reactions to what he thinks or what she thinks everyone is going to. So, yeah, it's a he. Sorry. I had to check that. I honestly didn't know. But we're going to see. And this is an attempt to match players with teams based on need, scheme fit, cap space, and how organizations have historically operated. So let's start. Number one is Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott, of course, is the Cowboys quarterback right now. He is expecting a huge contract coming into free agency here, and this guy has him signing with the Cowboys. He'll be 27 at the start of next season, never missed a game due to injury. He'll either be franchise tag or he'll get an extension. So more than likely, Prescott will stay in Dallas. But if he gets franchise tag, then you see a lot of issues going on there. But besides the old guys, which is Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Phillip Rivers, this is the biggest quarterback on the market. Not gonna lie, Ryan Tannehill, meh. Cam Newton's not on the market technically. But yeah, Dak Prescott is the biggest quarterback on the market at the moment. He's young. He has he had one of the best years last year. He was up there. He was up there in the top rankings at quarterback in most of the quarterback rankings. So he had a really good year last year. So Cowboys need to pick him up. I don't know. Jerry's been kind of indecisive on this. Drew Brees, Saints. It's kind of obvious. He's not officially under contract for 2020, but he said he's either signing with the Saints or he's retiring. So, I mean, they're going to get a deal done one way or another. It would be kind of crazy if they don't get a deal done, especially with all this drama around Taysom Hill, Teddy Bridgewater, stuff like that. Tom Brady, of course, nobody knows. He has the Patriots. At the end of the day, Bill Belichick and Tom Brady will have to sit down and discuss this. And, I mean, there is a high possibility about him going to the Patriots. I will actually discuss the Tom Brady thing later on in the show because there's some interesting information that happened that kind of changes my view on a lot of the things. So we'll save that for later. But Phillip Rivers for the Buccaneers here. Or he could go to the Buccaneers. The Colts have often been linked to Rivers, but Rivers, he was a turnover machine last year, but he played well the previous 2 years. The Buccaneers have excellent weapons with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and their defense played pretty well. They were fifth in efficiency last season. Bruce Arians decides he's had enough with Jameis Winston, and Rivers finished his career in Florida, where he moved his family. So he's basing this pretty much off of the fact that he moved to Florida, which is a fair thing because, I mean, Rivers never moved from San Diego when they started playing in Los Angeles. He never moved from San Diego. He did not want to move from San Diego. And then when he decided that he doesn't want to be at the Chargers anymore, he moved from San Diego to Florida. So he is definitely going to sign with some Florida team, in my opinion, either the Dolphins or with the Buccaneers. Not the Jaguars. Don't think he's going to sign with the Jaguars, but one of those two teams will probably get Phillip Rivers. Either the Dolphins will get him and have him as a stopgap guide for the next quarterback they get, or the Buccaneers will get him and Bruce Arians will get a okay older quarterback, and they can focus on trying to find a new guy next year or the year after that. Amari Cooper is the first non-quarterback that we're going to talk about. Amari Cooper, he's the current Cowboys wide receiver. This guy has him going to the Cowboys. They had the second-ranked offense and fifth-ranked passing offense in the NFL last season. They achieved that offensive efficiency, and it should be a goal of every team to look for that sustained success. Cooper will only be 26 at the start of next season. He was the number one wide receiver for the Cowboys. He's the type of player the Cowboys should be looking to ink to a long-term deal, even if it means shelling out $20 million a year. That probably makes sense. Amari Cooper has said multiple times he wants to stay with the Cowboys, but I mean, he's looking to get paid. He's looking for that payday. Everybody's looking for that payday. So him going to the Cowboys makes sense to me. Staying with the Cowboys makes sense to me. And I think if they get Amari Cooper, then they should keep Dak. I mean, that's just what's smart, I feel like. Next up, Chris Jones, defensive tackle for the Chiefs. So he'll either be franchise tagged or get a long-term extension. He'll stay in Kansas City no matter what. Chiefs could tag and trade him and get a nice haul, but the pass rushing defensive tackles are hard to find, and he'll just be 26 at the start of next season. He had 31 sacks over the 3 seasons and are tied for 10th most. So yeah, he could stay with the Chiefs. They could easily, I think they're at least going to tag him, probably. Either it's a tag and trade or they're just going to tag him in general. But move on to another defensive lineman, Jadeveon Clowney. This guy has him going to the Titans, which is interesting to say the least. Clowney, of course, was with the Texans, got traded to the Seahawks this past season. He's saying that the Titans produce a sack or QB hit on 18.8% of opponents' pass plays last year. They ranked 24th in that category. So Clowney's skills are best maximized in a creative defensive scheme where he can line up in different spots and create havoc. The Titans offer that. Plus, Mike Vrabel is familiar with Clowney from their time in Houston. So that alone is a big reason why this might happen. Mike Vrabel knows him from Houston. They work together in Houston. And yeah, that alone could bring him to Tennessee to play for the Titans. And the Titans, they made it to the AFC Championship game, depending on whether they get Ryan Tannehill or they try to go for Tom Brady. It's yet to be seen. But I think if they get Ryan Tannehill back, or they go out and actually get Tom Brady, that they will be set up pretty nicely to make another run at the AFC Championship game. Now, of course, you have that other guy, Derrick Henry. That's kind of a big hole in that offense that you kind of need to get. So I've always said this: the Tennessee Titans offseason depends on Derrick Henry. Because there are plenty of quarterbacks out there where if you don't get Ryan Tannehill, you can actually probably get a better quarterback. You can get Teddy Bridgewater, who could end up being a better quarterback than Ryan Tannehill. You can get Tom Brady. You can get, not Phillip Rivers, but you know what I mean. You can get one of these other quarterbacks that are out and about. You can try to get Dak Prescott if you really wanted to. You can Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton's basically Ryan Tannehill. I mean, I'm just saying the Titans, their success is definitely depending on whether or not they get Derrick Henry back. Speaking of the Titans, we'll stick with the Titans. Ryan Tannehill, this guy says the Titans will franchise tag him. He became the second player in the Super Bowl era to complete 70% of his passes and average over 9 yards per 9 yards per attempt in a season, but it was only in 10 games. So the Titans are going to be wary of making a long-term decision. That's why I'm saying Derrick Henry is their main guy right now, and Ryan Tannehill is just kind of there at the moment. So yeah, let's see. James Bradbury, he is a cornerback. He could go to the Redskins. Ron Rivera knows him well from their time together in Carolina, and Washington needs help at cornerback, so going to the Redskins would make a lot of sense. Corey Littleton, linebacker, he could play for the Giants. He would make sense for a number of teams, including the Redskins and the Raiders, but the Giants have money to spend and need to build up one of the least talented defenses in the NFL. They add the playmaking 3-down linebacker, which would help a lot. The biggest question mark in quarterbacks, and this will be the last one I talk about. I might continue this conversation on Sunday because I didn't even make it to 20. So, Jameis Winston, quarterback. This guy is saying he could go to the Steelers. Now, having the first ever 30 for 30 season, 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions, that makes him not a hot commodity right now. But he got LASIK surgery, so everybody's saying, it's like, oh, he can see now. Maybe he can actually play well. But it all depends on Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger is 38 at the start of the season. He's suggesting Winston could back up Roethlisberger, which is a very interesting very interesting concept that could happen. He could back up Roethlisberger, and Roethlisberger, who's been very injury prone lately, could get injured, and then it's the Jameis Winston show in Pittsburgh. I know a couple of Pittsburgh friends that would not like that at all. But when we return, we'll talk about Tua Tagovailoa being cleared of all football activities.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
So we've discussed free agency. I mean, you can talk about this NFL free agency for hours and hours. I basically already have on this podcast. You have the plethora of quarterbacks going on. You have all the other big name players, but this is definitely the year of the quarterback for the NFL free agency this year. That also includes the NFL draft, as there are plenty of quarterbacks in the NFL draft that could get taken. You have Joe Burrow, you got Justin Herbert, Josh Hart got a lot of love from Utah State. And then you have Tua Tagovailoa. I can't say his name right now, and I don't know. I said it perfectly fine in the last segment, but whatever. So he injured his hip, had hip surgery last year, finished his last season with the Alabama Crimson Tide. He, of course, led the Alabama Crimson Tide to a national championship by coming in the fourth quarter his freshman year. Then his sophomore year, went to the national championship, lost to Clemson. And then last year, they probably could have went to the national championship again, to be honest, but then he got injured, and that kind of ended it all. They actually almost made it back to the national championship, to be honest, with whoever that other guy was. I forgot the other guy's name. But Tua is a big name going into this draft, because you're hearing rumors going around about the Redskins potentially taking him, even though they already have Dwayne Haskins. There's rumors Mel Kiper has him projecting going to the Detroit Lions, which would be interesting because they have Matthew Stafford already, and Matthew Stafford hasn't really declined in play at all. He hasn't really shown any reason why they would pick a quarterback in the first round. But the big issue with Tua was, is he clear to do anything? Because the fact of the matter is, the hip injury he got was the same one that ended Bo Jackson's career. Now, of course, to be fair, Bo Jackson's career got ended because of complications from surgery and other kind of stuff like that. But in this day and age, people don't read articles. They look at the headlines. When they see Tua, same injury as Bo Jackson, people think, oh no, it's over. That's what I initially thought when I saw it happen on Twitter. All I saw was that looked like what happened to Bo Jackson, and this is, of course, before he went to the doctor and we got more info on it. But when you look at it, when it first happened, going through everyone's mind is like, that looked like what happened to Bo Jackson. That's not good. So these NFL teams, of course, are weary of it. And, of course, Tua has other medical issues that went on. He hurt his ankle, he's hurt his knee, he's hurt his shoulder before, I'm pretty sure. There's a lot of injuries in Tua's history, and I mean, I don't want to say that he has the injury bug or he's injury prone or anything like that, but the fact of the matter is, he's been injured at least once. The 2 years he started quarterback in college. So, NFL teams are weary of it. But we got news a couple days ago that Tua has been medically cleared for all football activity after a 4-month scan on Monday came back all clear. So, his season, like we said, ended in November when he suffered a posterior wall fracture and dislocated hip, which, by the way, that alone sounds awful. That alone sounds terrible. So he will train in Nashville, start throwing, running, rolling out, and doing dropbacks this week once he gets settled in the city, which is still recovering from devastating tornadoes. That part of the article is not relevant to what I'm trying to talk about. But I mean, Nashville, I hope you're doing okay. So he will participate at Alabama's Pro Day on April 9th, where he will throw for NFL teams, and he will take a conservative approach to Pro Day. He'll definitely drop back and throw to show teams that he can, in fact, drop back and throw, which is an important thing. He attended the scouting combine last week where he underwent medical examinations and interviews. His main thing, I heard him on the Dan Le Batard show, or Golick and Wingo, one of the two. He mentioned that his main thing going into the NFL draft is just being medically cleared. That is all he cares about. He cares about his medical. That's it. He's not worried about not performing at the combine. He's not worried about interviews. He's worried about his medicals. And that is there's a good reason for that, because his medicals are the main thing that people care about. I mean, everyone knows. I mean, I'm pretty sure all NFL coaches respect Nick Saban, at least a little bit. I'm pretty sure of that. If Nick Saban says, this kid is one of the best kids I've ever coached, they're going to take his word for it, and they're going to jump on him. They don't even need to interview him at that point. It is clear that Nick Saban and Tua kind of had, they had a certain relationship that Nick Saban didn't really have with other players. Same thing with Jalen Hurts. So, I mean, Nick Saban must be kind of wheeling right now because he had two really good quarterbacks back-to-back that he really loved, like, personally and characteristically. He loved just everything about him, and now he's kind of stuck with whoever it is at the back. I forgot his name. It's a very generic white guy name from Alabama, so I don't know what it is. But yeah, so Nick Saban, if Nick Saban praises you, NFL coaches are going to listen to it. So Tua, though, at Pro Day, he does have to show that he can throw and he is capable of throwing. That's a good first step. I mean, of course, the season doesn't start until September, or preseason starts in August or whatever. So he still has plenty of time to recover. But if you're a team, and if you're like the Redskins, it's like we have Dwayne Haskins. We drafted Dwayne Haskins in the first round last year. Should we take our chance on drafting Tua this year? Because we might like Tua a little bit better. We don't think Dwayne Haskins is the quarterback of the future. We got a new coach. Ron Rivera doesn't think Dwayne Haskins can be the quarterback of the future. We need to get a new quarterback in here. They need to see that Tua can at least throw right now. And that's an important thing. So he's cleared for all activities. He has one more medical checkup scheduled before the draft. He'll have an MRI on April 10th, which will be an important MRI, and they will check to see whether there is cartilage growth. Their Alabama team physician, Dr. Lyle Kane, said he was elated with the results of the scan. If you had told me 4 months ago that the scan would look this good, I would have been ecstatic, which, I mean, I guess he's ecstatic. So Tua seems to be perfectly healthy, but we need to wait until that Pro Day on April 9th, which is still a month away. So he gets another month, and he's training. He told sources say that he's been training. He's been telling people that he's been training in Nashville, throwing, running, rolling out, doing dropbacks. So he is ready, I feel like. And he is a pretty good quarterback. Now, of course, there's a stigma against left-handed quarterbacks, which will always be there. There's a stigma against left-handed people just in general in society, which, it's unfair to left-handed people, but, them's the breaks. So, especially left-handed quarterbacks, though. So, Tua already has that going against him. Then he has his injury history against him as well. So, it's going to be interesting to see how teams react. His Pro Day is going to be extremely important. I bet a lot of people are going to watch it just out of curiosity. I might tune in, depending on what time of day it is, what I'm doing during that time. But on April 9th, that might be must-watch TV, because you want to see if Tua is good enough to get drafted at 2 or drafted at 3. Now, let's talk about this draft. So you of course have the rumors that the Redskins might take him at 2, which it seems like they're kind of, it seems like they're baiting, because why wouldn't you take Chase Young? You already drafted Dwayne Haskins. At least stick with Dwayne Haskins one more year, and if you suck, then tank for Trevor. Tank for Trevor Lawrence. That's what I would do. Of course, no team wants to tank, but you give Dwayne Haskins solid 5 games or so to see if he's worth anything. See if he improved at all from last year. If he does great, then you're good. If he doesn't, then tank, pretty much. That's where I'm getting at there. So you get Chase Young, you get a huge defensive lineman. Now, of course, they already have a pretty solid defensive line in Washington. Then you talk about Mel Kiper, which, first off, Mel Kiper, what? Projecting him at number 3 to go to the Lions? Why on earth would the Lions get Tua Tagovailoa? Did I say it right that time? Dang it. I don't understand that one at all. I think he will fall to the Dolphins, which I think the Dolphins are either 5 or 6, or 4. I forgot what the whole order was. But, I think he'll fall to the Dolphins, and the Dolphins will get him. I think it makes more sense for the Dolphins to get him. I don't think the Lions are going to get him at all. I don't know why Mel Kiper is saying that, unless he has an inside source saying that the Lions are going for. I haven't even heard anything about that, so I don't fully understand where that came from. But up next, we'll talk about the newest installment of the Tom Brady saga
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
And it's just the NFL free agency show, man. I'm so sorry. We're in the middle of NBA season. You got the coronavirus going on. March Madness starts next week. But to be honest, there's not a lot of basketball stuff going on. You have the conference championships, conference tournaments going on right now, but they played, the ACC one played like their first 4 games. Like none of the top seeds are played yet. You have all the smaller conferences that played, but I don't watch them, so I can't really talk about them. There is some to talk about in basketball right now. I mean, the NBA, I usually try to talk about big matchups, which, I'm talking about the NBA in the last segment of the show. But other than that, there's not really much going on in the NBA either. Everything's kind of drowned out by the coronavirus stuff that's going on. I watched the Mavs Spurs game last night, but that didn't really, tickle my fancy, I guess. I mean, Luka Doncic lost, or the Mavericks lost, not just Luka Doncic. But, that didn't really interest me. And then you had the Warriors facing off against the Clippers, I think. The Warriors are now eliminated from the playoffs. I'm just saying, none of that really interested me last night. There's just nothing interesting in basketball technically has happened. I'm hyped about conference tournaments and stuff like that, but I'm not hyped yet. I'm not hyped about watching the actual tournaments. I'm hyped about who's going to win, and I'm hyped about the championship games, but none of that will happen until Saturday or Sunday, I think. So there's not really much going on right now. I'm about to pull up, there's just not a lot going on in basketball. There's a lot going on in basketball, just not a lot to talk about in basketball. If that makes any sense at all, it probably does not, but that's just how we're going right now. So, Tom Brady. Well, let's finally get into the topic that I'm trying to talk about. Tom Brady. The Brady bunch. Tom Brady is, of course, the biggest free agent on the market right now. Now, either you agree with that or you don't. He is definitely the biggest free agent for people that need tickets, fans, and a quarterback. Now, there's one team that desperately needs all 3 of those, and I think their chances of getting Tom Brady skyrocketed after I read this news. So Tom Brady is deciding to do what every athlete is now trying to do. He is trying to get into Hollywood. Every actor. Not every actor. Every athlete is trying to get into Hollywood now. Kobe Bryant, he won an Oscar. Good for him. LeBron James moved out to LA to work with his production company and stuff like that. And then he ended up on the Lakers. Big name athletes are using their big names to kind of sway Hollywood into giving them things for some reason. I guess they have the money to invest in it. I think people just like the name power, I guess. But I read this news and I immediately thought, oh, that changes everything in the QB market, in the Tom Brady discussion. Tom Brady is launching a multi-platform Hollywood production company called 199 Productions. Now, 199 Productions, of course, is a reference to his draft, the number in the draft that he was drafted at. He said on Instagram that I believe in the essence of teamwork, and I have no doubt our 199 Productions team and partners will create inspiring content to share with the world. Now, of course, my first thing is like, what is Tom Brady going to make? Like, what is, because I'm going to be honest with you, I know nothing about Tom Brady's actual personality. Like, I know he's super competitive and stuff like that, but other than that, I don't know anything about his personality. I don't know what he likes. I don't know what he dislikes. I just know he likes winning and he doesn't like losing. That's all I know. He's got the TB12 thing going on. Other than that, what does he like? What is he going to make documentaries on? They're going to develop documentaries, feature films, and television shows. On what? I just don't. Anyways, so their first project is called Unseen Football. It will be through a partnership with directors Joe and Anthony Russo. Those are the guys who worked on Avengers Endgame, Infinity War, and stuff like that. So they've made huge productions. They're big names in the movie world at the moment. He released a statement that said, "I'm excited to work with Joe and Anthony Russo and their team at AGBO Films." Don't know what that stands for, but whose creative vision and unrivaled storytelling has revolutionized the business. Brady said in a statement, according to Deadline.com, "I'm humbled to have the opportunity to partner with them to bring Unseen Football to the big screen and tell this story in a way that has never been done before. I believe in the essence of teamwork, and I have no doubt our team will create the most magical experience for people to enjoy." Okay, well, now, obviously, I'm not stupid. I know Tom Brady will have no hands-on aspects of this production company. He's basically just kind of funding it, I guess. I guarantee you he's not making any decisions. Joe and Anthony Russo will be making all the decisions. Tom Brady might be footing the bill, or he might be just the face. Tom Brady's not doing anything movie-wise. So that's why my original point of what is he going to make doesn't really make sense, because he's not going to make anything. The Russo brothers are going to make stuff, and Tom Brady's just going to tag his name on it, and if he wins an Oscar, he's going to be like, I won an Oscar, and that's just kind of how it works. That's how production companies work, I guess. So what would Unseen Football be? What would that be? According to Deadline, Unseen Football is a 3D adventure documentary that intends to take viewers into the invisible realms of football. What? The feature will be directed by Gautam Chopra, the executive producer of the popular Facebook documentary series Tom vs. Time that shadowed Brady throughout the 2018 season. So, it's a 3D football documentary? So, is the camera going to be in the helmet and we're going to be like playing football, or I don't understand this concept. This concept just doesn't make sense in general to me, but sure, we'll go with it, whatever. But what does this have to do with Tom Brady's free agency? What does this have to do? I mentioned that this changes everything. So how does it change everything? Well, there's a team in LA that needs fans, need exposure, need a quarterback. There's one team in LA that needs all three of those things. There's one team in LA that made the Super Bowl a couple years ago. They have a decent fan base. They have a meh quarterback. They don't need Tom Brady. But one team in LA just got rid of their franchise quarterback, and they desperately need fans to become because LA is not taking to them at all. You could argue LA is not taking to the Rams at all. But the Chargers play in a soccer stadium. It's the Chargers, by the way. I completely ruined the surprise. The Chargers play in a soccer stadium that they can't even fill with their own fans. And people just overall don't like their ownership because he abruptly left San Diego. They're going to be playing in the same stadium as the Los Angeles Rams, which is in technically Los Angeles. And I'm basing this completely off the fact that this same exact thing kind of happened with LeBron James. LeBron James started a production company, I think, something like that, and he wanted to move to LA. He moved his family to LA, like his son got transferred into some high school in LA, stuff like that, and people were like, it's kind of a done deal now, and then he went to LA. It's kind of what's happening here. Now, people are disputing this because Giselle said she hated LA, which, at this point, I mean, they have like 5 houses around the world. I don't think it really matters which house they're at. And Giselle's out doing her own thing. So, I mean, obviously she has a huge say in everything because she's the wife, but, I mean, it doesn't make that, it's not that crazy to think that the Chargers have a better chance now because of Tom Brady going Hollywood. Right now, my top 3 for Tom Brady is going to be the LA Chargers, San Francisco 49ers, because the 49ers just makes a lot of sense. The only reason the 49ers doesn't make sense is because they have Garoppolo, which means they would have to move Garoppolo. And then, of course, going back to the Patriots. I think the Titans are out. Buccaneers I've seen a little bit of. I don't think the I can't see Tom Brady in Tampa. It would be funny because everybody from the Northeast moved to Florida to retire, but I don't see that happening. But when we return, we'll talk about Monday Night Football and what ESPN is doing there, including some trade talks. We're going to make really bad jokes pretending ESPN is a team in the NFL when we return.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
So this is an interesting story just to talk about because you don't really hear about broadcasters and the drama behind broadcasters. And I know some people are kind of like, I don't really care, which is fair because why would you care about the broadcasters? But a lot of people do care about broadcasters, like Joe Buck, for instance, is one of the most hated broadcasters in the world for some reason. I mean, he does an okay job. I understand. He has the perfect broadcaster voice for baseball. Football, on the other hand, he just doesn't get excited. The best thing I could say is the 2007 Super Bowl when the Giants pulled off the huge upset against the Patriots, and then Joe Buck on the David Tyree catch, he was just like, oh my, what a catch. No emotion at all in his voice. At the end of the day, people do care about broadcasters. People do care what broadcasters say, what they do. They do care. This is a thing that people care about. And that is a fact. Now, I dropped my pen. Now, we have an interesting thing going on. Monday Night Football has been kind of past 2 years. 2 years ago, they had the Boogermobile, which people didn't really like. Didn't like at all. Last year they had just a regular booth, which worked out better. They also had Witten in there 2 years ago, and he did a terrible job. And then this past year, it was better. You had Tessitore, and you had Booger McFarland, which is not the best, but it's better than what they did 2 years ago. Now, ESPN is noticing that their ratings are down. They're noticing that they need help. And with the emergence of Tony Romo, the emergence of these new fangled people who know what they're talking about going on in broadcasting, ESPN is trying to catch up. So recently, ESPN has been trying to get Peyton Manning to be the color commentator for ESPN Monday Night Football, which I believe would be a fantastic hire because Peyton Manning, he of course knows football. He knows the ins and out of the game. He would basically be like Tony Romo. He knows how to present himself. He's been on SNL like twice, I think. He knows how to present himself. He had his own show, his own show on ESPN Plus. So the connection with ESPN is already there, which by the way, that show was pretty good. It's a pretty good show. If you haven't checked out Peyton's Places, check it out. Stuff like that. So, I mean, he has the rapport, he has the connections to get this done. It's just whether or not ESPN's going to pay him enough for him to do it. And with Tony Romo breaking the broadcasting market with his $17 million contract, Peyton Manning is probably going to ask for at least 15, I believe. So, and who would be Peyton Manning's partner? Would it be Tessitore? Would it be someone else? Someone else ESPN brings on? Would it be Sean McDermott? I know a lot of people didn't like him. I thought he was okay. Or Sean McDonough, something like that. People didn't like him. I thought he was okay. Well, ESPN, there were reports that ESPN was trying to trade for Al Michaels from NBC. There were rumors that they were going to trade someone for Al Michaels, which is always an interesting thing to me, because this actually did happen a couple, 10 years ago or something like that, where Al Michaels himself got traded from ESPN to NBC. He got traded from ESPN to NBC so Disney could get the rights to Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, which, if you don't know who Oswald the Lucky Rabbit is, which is a perfectly reasonable thing to not know, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit was Walt Disney's first cartoon. And this cartoon eventually led into Mickey Mouse. But the only reason it led into Mickey Mouse was because Oswald the Lucky Rabbit was owned by Warner Bros. Or owned by NBC, one of the two. And when Walt Disney went to make his own company, he no longer could use it because of copyright issues and stuff like that. So then he moved on to make Mickey Mouse, which, we all know that was a terrible idea and it failed horribly, obviously. But Disney traded Al Michaels for Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. And this is because Disney wanted to make a video game. And they also wanted all the vault of that. And the worst part about it is Oswald the Lucky Rabbit's not even on Disney Plus, which makes no sense to me. Why is he not on Disney Plus? You traded a whole human for him, and you're not even going to put him on Disney Plus. What are we doing, Disney? What are we doing? Anyways, so they tried to trade for Al Michaels. NBC politely declined, said, hey, we're going to keep Al Michaels for the rest of this contract, which I think is 2 more years at $5 million. And then Al Michaels is going to ask for a truckload of money because he is a living legend in the broadcasting biz. And his partner, Tony Romo, who's only been doing this for 3 years, got paid $17 million by CBS. Now, of course, Tony Romo was courted by ESPN. He was courted by ESPN to go to ESPN to do Monday Night Football, and when he did not sign with ESPN, ESPN is now going after Peyton Manning. Now, of course, Peyton Manning has not officially signed with ESPN, so there's a chance that ESPN will whiff on a trade for Al Michaels. They'll whiff on a signing, two big-time signings, big-time free agent signings, and they'll be kind of stuck with the same old broadcast that they had before. So, does that mean ESPN is a terribly run sports team? Think about it. A lot of people have left ESPN. Some people, there's a lot of loyal people still there that are going to be there for many more years. But Mike Tirico left ESPN a couple of years ago. He was the voice of Monday Night Football. John Gruden left ESPN to become a head coach again. He left ESPN to go to the Oakland Raiders, become a head coach again. Mike Tirico left to go to NBC so he can do Masters coverage and all that good stuff, and the Olympics. And he is effectively Al Michaels' successor over there at NBC. So you're telling me ESPN can't get these big-time names? Colin Cowherd left, which I know they're not that, but that's not that big of a loss. Some people. Skip Bayless left. Now, of course, they made some good acquisitions like Katie Nolan. They made a Katie Nolan acquisition from Fox. They made some other ones that I can't think of at the moment. But, I mean, ESPN is kind of a terribly run sports team at the moment. They flunked on a trade. They couldn't get a trade done. They have all the assets in the world and couldn't get a trade done. They couldn't sign 2 big free agents. I mean, they might still sign Peyton Manning. But, I mean, there's some rumors that Peyton Manning would only sign with ESPN if Al Michaels was with him. Which would be so interesting if that's true. I can only imagine Peyton Manning demanding Al Michaels be in the booth with him. And it makes it all a lot funnier if you imagine Al Michaels hated Peyton Manning, which he does not. I don't think so. But if he did, that would be the funniest thing ever. That would be the best Peyton Manning prank you could ever pull, I guess, to make Al Michaels sit in the booth with you. That would be funny to me. I don't know. But this whole scenario is just kind of funny to me because you don't really get to see behind the curtain for broadcasting stuff like this, which if you want to learn more, follow Andrew Marchand. He is for the New York Post, and he specifically does sports media. He talks about sports media contracts and stuff like that. There's also the SI Media Podcast, which is a thing. You can listen to that, of course, after you listen to us. But there's the SI Sports Media Podcast. They go more in depth on media, and he has interviews with actual, sports media people. And, I'm just over here talking to myself pretty much. But those are interesting. If you want to learn more about like the actual inner workings of sports media and stuff like that, I mean, I listen to that stuff because obviously I want to be in sports media. But yeah, it's very interesting to say the least. But it is interesting that ESPN, they've kind of had bad ratings. There are also a rumor that ESPN might try to buy out Sunday night and Thursday night football and just have Sunday, Monday, and Thursday night football, which I think would be terrible. I like the fact that NBC has Sunday night. I like the fact that ESPN has Monday night. And I think Fox should get Thursday night. Just so it's kind of fair, I guess. I think Thursday night's like on NFL Network or something like that half the time. I don't know. I don't really watch Thursday night football. It's usually trash. So, but I think it'd be interesting if all three big networks, I'm forgetting CBS too. It would be interesting if all of the big networks had their own primetime show for NFL. Just because it's nice to have competition. Competition is always good. And yeah, so when we come back, we'll talk about more about how competition is good. We'll talk about the MVP race between LeBron James and Giannis Antetokounmpo taking place of my bracket madness, which RIP, we'll talk about that on Sunday. But when we return, MVP race talk.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and One Championship. We got the fights covered. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
This has been a hot topic issue for the past couple of days, especially after this weekend when LeBron James and the LA Lakers went to Milwaukee. No, they didn't go to Milwaukee, I don't think. But they played Milwaukee and they beat the Bucks. Then they went to LA, stayed in LA, you should say, to play the Clippers and beat the Clippers. Now they lost to the Nets last night, Tuesday night, but no biggie. I keep hitting my mic. I'm so sorry. No biggie. They lost to the Nets last night. That doesn't matter. LeBron James MVP talk. It is ramping up again. And let me tell you something. It is always a thing. There is always, as long as LeBron James is in the NBA, there will always be LeBron James MVP talk. Because the fact of the matter is, he's the best player in the league. So he's going to be talked about as the most valuable player in the league every single year. But is he actually the most valuable player in the NBA this year, which is the important distinction? Now, we can compare stats all day, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to compare stats. But I have a big reason why I don't think LeBron James should win MVP. I'll talk about that towards the end of the segment after we talk about stats. We're going to compare stats here real quick. So I have LeBron James, Giannis Antetokounmpo, I can't hit these names today. I usually can be able to hit Tagovailoa and Antetokounmpo perfectly fine, but today it's just not happening. LeBron James versus Giannis. Here are the stats comparisons, just for you to know. LeBron James played 60 games. Giannis played 57 so far. LeBron averages 34.9 minutes per game. Giannis averages 30.9, which that's kind of skewed because the Bucks destroy their competition over on the East. So a lot of times Giannis just doesn't play towards the end of the game. So I feel like that's a little skewed there. LeBron has a .498 field goal percentage. Giannis has a .547. LeBron has a .349 3-point percentage. Giannis has a .306 3-point percentage, which of course neither of these guys are necessarily expected to have high 3-point percentages. So, yeah. LeBron has a surprisingly low .697% free throw percentage. Giannis has also a surprisingly low free throw percentage of .633. Which, why are we discussing these guys as being the best players in the league when they can't even make a free throw? It doesn't matter. LeBron has 7.9 rebounds per game. Giannis has 13.7 rebounds per game. LeBron has 10.6 assists per game, especially since he plays at the point guard. A lot of the times he runs the offense in Los Angeles for the Lakers most of the time. Giannis only has 5.8 assists per game, so he's usually not the assist guy. They have other people for that. LeBron has 25.7 points per game. Giannis has 29.6 points per game. So here's my opinion. And I'm not talking about my biggest argument against LeBron. I'm just comparing these two straight up right now. LeBron has the stats to back it up. He has the stats. I agree with that. He does have the stats. He does, in fact, have the stats. But at the end of the day, when you watch a Bucks game, the entirety of the Bucks runs through Giannis. Now, of course, they have other guys that contribute a good bit. I'm not saying they don't contribute at all. I'm saying they contribute a good bit, and they are integral to the Bucks being as good as they are. But at the end of the day, that team runs through Giannis. LeBron, on the other hand, they have Anthony Davis. They have more people there to pass the ball around to just get things done just in general. So, my personal opinion, I'm going Giannis. And I've seen arguments for LeBron, and I understand you want LeBron to win. And LeBron is the best player in the NBA. But that does not mean he's the most valuable. That never means he's the most valuable. And it's one of the it's the terrible thing. It's the Greg Popovich, it's the Bill Belichick conundrum where you are the best in the league every single season, but you're not going to win best coach. You're not going to win coach of the year every single year because that's boring. People are going to vote against you just for the fact that you won it last year or you won it the year before. Now, I think LeBron's only won like 3 MVPs or something like that, which only 3 or something like that. I actually don't know how much LeBron has won, to be honest. Let me look it up real quick. But LeBron James winning only a handful of MVPs, I'll say. He's a 4-time MVP. I apologize. I shorthanded him. Holy cow. He has 4 MVPs. He has won the MVP award 4 times. Now, I'm assuming all 4 of those years were when he was in Cleveland, or I think he probably had one in Miami. Yeah, he might have had one in Miami. I can't readily look for that right now, but yeah. He might have had one in Miami, but most of the time they were in Cleveland when he was literally running the show. Like, that is all LeBron. It is literally only LeBron. Now, here is my main argument against LeBron James, and that is his teammate, Anthony Davis. Now, what are you talking about, Josh? What are you talking about? Anthony Davis? I mean, yeah, he's a superstar. He's another top 5 player in the league. But why are we talking about Anthony Davis? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Well, let me tell you what I'm talking about. Anthony Davis currently leads the team in points per game and pretty much every defensive category. He leads the Lakers in every defensive category, including blocks, steals, and rebounds. Anthony Davis played 55 games. He averages 34.3 minutes played, which is about on par with LeBron. He has a .511 field goal percentage, better than LeBron. .335 three-point percentage, which is not better than LeBron, but it's better than I expected him, and he does not shoot three-pointers as much as, as LeBron would. .845 free throw percentage, which of course nobody really cares about free throws when we're talking about MVP conversations, but still throwing it out there. 9.4 rebounds per game and 26.7 points per game. LeBron's not even the most valuable player on his own team. He's not even the best player on his team currently this year. I'm talking about this year and statistically. If we're talking about overall, of course, it's asinine to think Anthony Davis is more important than LeBron. And you can look at plus minuses. I've talked about this before. You can talk about plus minuses where when LeBron's off the court, the plus minus is all the way down in the minus for the Lakers. Whereas when it's Anthony Davis, just Anthony Davis, it doesn't get better. But when LeBron's on the court, there is a significant change. And that's because the offense runs through LeBron. However, you want me to believe LeBron, of all people, who's not having one of the greatest seasons of all time. I hate to break it to you. He's not. He's just not. He's not having one of the greatest seasons of all time. He's close to a triple-double, averaging a triple-double. I'll give him that. He's close to that. But for the most part, he's par for the course. This is basically what he's been doing his entire career. He's getting more assists, and that's because the offense is running through him. He's playing point guard a lot more, but he's scoring less points than he usually does during his career. He's getting less field goal percentage. His field goal percentage is down. His three-point percentage is down. His free throw percentage is down. His efficiency is a little up. His player efficiency rating is 26 compared to his career average, which is 27.5. He is not having a career year. That's the bottom line. Also, just looking at this basketball reference page, it says one of his nicknames is L Train. I don't know who's called him L Train, but anyways. But he's not having a great year. And now here's where this argument comes in. You're playing with an all-star teammate who is producing just as good, if not better, than you are. And you are expected to win MVP? I think people just want him to win MVP because it's LeBron. And I saw that some people are saying that he should win because of the China debacle. He had to deal with that, and he had to deal with Kobe's death. Which, by the way, we're not bringing Kobe's death into this. I know I just brought it in, but that's not part of this. The China thing, sure, we could talk about that. If we're going to bring the China thing into the discussion of MVP, then LeBron loses just based on that, because his response to the whole China debacle was terrible. He sided with China, and a lot of people didn't like it. He didn't side with his fellow players. He didn't side with the Rockets or anything like that. He sided with China because he had a lot of money in China. So if we're going to bring China into this, he loses it just because of that, because his response was terrible, and he didn't talk about it again until it kind of died down a couple months later. So there you have it. I'm going Giannis. We still have 20 more games left to play, 22 left or something like that. So there's still a lot of basketball to play. But I'm going Giannis because Giannis has less on his team, less to work with, and also the offense is not run through Giannis. I mean, it does, but he's not the point guard. But anyways, that's the show for you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening to this Thursday edition. I'll see you on Sunday. Make sure you like, rate, and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. And follow me on Twitter, Strickland_Josh, and I'll talk to y'all on Sunday.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.